She's a Maltese public figure, artist, and activist, former sub-editor at Loving Malta, and host of the She Word Young Woman's Edition. In her artistic practice, she works with analog photography, wow, in this day and age, that's fantastic, and poetry, and has exhibited internationally, including at Korea Open in Venice. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in fine arts at the University of Malta.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you. So I'm starting a bit with a personal story. So when I was 23, I decided to move to Gozo. I had reached a point where I felt like I could not breathe in Malta anymore. The sound of endless construction had become the first one I hear as I open my eyes in the morning. I was born and raised in Mosta, and while I remembered a quiet childhood, a neighborhood which was still new with an unfinished road, something really shifted when I hit my teens. House by house, one at a time, they started to get knocked down, to be replaced by apartments. Buildings disappeared, open spaces vanished, entire neighborhoods transformed into construction sites. And slowly, the sound of construction became the soundtrack of everyday life. Drilling in the morning, hammering all day, dust in the air, cranes everywhere you look. Sounds like I'm describing what has become the norm to many of us, right?
Yeah.
At first, you try to live with it because everyone else does. You tell yourself it's normal. You try to tell yourself that this is progress, even though you don't really believe it. But after years of it, the noise starts to live inside you. It stops being something you hear and becomes something you feel constantly. Stress, exhaustion, a sense that there is nowhere left to escape from it. And eventually, I reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore. I always used to tell my parents, the day that someone decides to develop the empty field next to our house, I will move away. I had already lived through years of construction, fields being dug up, excavated entire stories downwards. I wasn't about to go through it with it happening right outside my bedroom window. And the day that the owners of this field hung the PA notice outside the door was the day I stuck to my promise that I would leave before the works even started. So many people ask me, unless they first assume I'm Gozotin, why did you move to Gozo? That is the reason I moved to Gozo at 23 years old. I came here searching for peace, for quiet, for stillness, and for space, for a feeling that life could still be slow and exist at a human pace. And for a while, I found it here. I found that sense of tranquility, the open landscapes, the silence. But now, after only 3 years living here, it's 3 years for me next week, the construction has returned back outside my doorstep, and at the same time, I watched the entire island rapidly transforming in the exact same way that Malta has been for years. And honestly, that realization is heartbreaking. As much as I've tried to tell myself otherwise, it really feels like the same cycle that consumed so much of Malta is now consuming Gozo as well. More excavation, more overdevelopment, more landscapes disappearing piece by piece. People always told me, oh, just wait until the construction reaches Gozo. It's becoming like Malta. It's only a matter of time. And maybe, many times I was hopeful that I could somehow play a part in slowing down this process. And I still believe that together we can. As we are standing here today in Shara, honoring these important spaces with deep historical, cultural, and emotional value being treated as obstacles to profit. And this is far from an isolated case. We are witnessing a total overhaul of environmental and cultural protections across Gozo. A 22-apartment complex approved within the buffer zone of the Gigantia temples. Permission granted to dismantle the British barracks at Fort Chambray for hotel development. Archaeologically sensitive land near Santa Verna approved for destruction, with the door left open for even more applications. Illegal environmental damage, including the dumping of concrete waste into Njarshini, met with little meaningful response. And all of this is happening while enforcement remains weak and Gozo still lacks even a dedicated Environmental Protection Unit police team. More examples that as a country we have failed to connect to our natural and cultural heritage time and time again. That we are constantly making decisions that do not have the environment and what is already existing within it in its best interest. These are not empty spaces waiting to be filled. These are places that carry memory, identity, and history. Places that shape people's well-being in ways that cannot be measured financially. What worries me most is not just one project or one permit. It is the mentality behind all of it. The idea that every remaining quiet place, every open landscape, every protected site can eventually be sacrificed. At some point, we have to ask ourselves, what exactly is protected anymore? People are not protesting development simply for the sake of protesting development. People are protesting this feeling that every safeguard is slowly being removed, that every remaining open space, heritage site, and quiet landscape is becoming vulnerable to speculation and profit. And meanwhile, the mental, emotional, and physical well-being of residents is treated as secondary, as if quality of life is less important than endless construction. On these islands, destruction has become normalized. But people are standing here today because we refuse to accept that this is inevitable. We are here because quality of life matters. Silence matters. We have the right to silence. Mental well-being matters. We have the right to a sound and sane mind that is not constantly bombarded by construction noises, to have peace and safety in our own homes. Heritage matters. We have the right to access what has been left behind by our ancestors. And finally, we are here to acknowledge that there is a real emotional cost to constantly watching the places you love disappear around you. I've experienced it firsthand, and now I'm also getting to experience it in the quietest town I chose to live in, which is Zabuch. You see that crane over there? That is my street. After 3 years of moving to Gozo for peace and silence, I am now being awoken up by excavation and drilling. Development should serve communities. Communities should not be forced to sacrifice their peace, history, and identity for unchecked, unregulated development. Because if Gozo loses the very things that make it special, its tranquility, its landscapes, its heritage, and its soul, then what exactly will remain?
Bravo.